This video is part of a series using the Marvel Cinematic Universe as a lens to learn about the Enneagram, and the Enneagram to learn about the MCU. You can watch it in whatever order you want, you're the boss of you, but if you'd like to start at the beginning, you can find the full playlist at the first link in the description or in the card up here. Today we're going to talk about Thor, and we're going to talk about Enneagram Type 3. The Achiever. Type 3's basic desire is to feel worthwhile, accepted, and desirable, and their basic fear is of being worthless and without value. This desire for acceptance often leads them to pursue success, however that is defined by their family, peer group, or culture. They tend to be tremendously driven and disciplined people, but since their sense of self-worth is so rooted in other people's perceptions of them, they can grow to be entirely out of touch with their own interests and desires. And this is where we get to start digging into the really good stuff of how the Enneagram can illuminate a story. Because Thor's arc is, well, it's kind of a mess. Just the good kind of mess. We see him at rock bottom, and we see him at something approaching his best, but we don't get them in that order. Thor gets thrown at the perfect challenge to help him grow right out of the gate, spends some time developing, and gets good, and then when he hits a series of major roadblocks, regresses even further than where we first met him, and is just starting to put the pieces back together at the point where last, dear reader, we left him. Thor is less like an eagle carving out a straight line from okay to worst to best than he is like a butterfly flitting around on the changing winds around him. In other words, the MCU's literal god is human. As a personal gift to me, Thor's presence in the MCU kicks off in his childhood, with an x-ray of the precise anatomy of the chip on his shoulder and the old block it came off of. And Odin is not subtle about this.
Both of you were born to be kings.
For threes like Thor, this kind of message, even if not so literal or direct, can have a lifelong impact.
As children, threes were not valued for themselves, as very few of us were. Instead, they were valued for being and doing certain things extremely well.
Odin makes it incredibly clear that Thor has a purpose in life, and a duty to live up to that purpose, and a clear metric for success.
Only one of you can ascend to the throne.
Not only that, he gives him an actual physical manifestation of his worth to society. And so, Thor has a clear blueprint for the rest of his life.
Threes learned to be goal-oriented, and to perform in ways that will garner them praise and positive attention. As children, they learned to recognize the activities that were valued by their parents or peers, and they put their energies into excelling in those activities. Threes also learned how to cultivate and develop whatever about them is attractive or potentially impressive.
Some of this cultivation involves ineffectual and easily exploited egocentric image management.
Run back home, little princess.
Damn.
But a lot of it is also about genuinely understanding what's important to people and making it happen.
Fandral, Hogan, who led you into the most glorious of battles? And Volstagg, the delicacies so succulent you thought you died and gone to Valhalla. And who proved wrong all who scoffed at the idea that a young maiden could be one of the fiercest warriors this realm has ever known.
Just, you know, with at least one eye toward how it reflects on him that he did that.
I did.
True, but I supported you, Sif.
And how to leverage it to get what he needs down the road. In this case, to get his friends help with the thing that will make him valuable to his father, saving the kingdom from the frost giants. See, Dad makes a respectable, do as I say, not as I do effort.
A wise king never seeks out war, but he must always be ready for it.
But Thor, like so many children, sees right through to the unspoken message at the heart of his father's war stories.
When I'm king, I'll hunt the monsters down and slay them all, just as you did, Father.
My father fought his way into Jotunheim, defeated their armies, and took their casket.
Kings are war heroes. I can prove that I am worthy to be king by destroying my kingdom's enemies. And so, first grown-up chance he gets, he tries to. He wages war, and he makes damn sure that he is the hero of this battle, no matter who thinks it's a bad idea. But, well, Dad thinks it's a bad idea, and he takes away the toy that manifests his approval and strands him on a planet full of mortals. Ugh. So So Thor spends a good chunk of the movie just trying to get back to the fancy toy. If he has the toy, he is worthy. Done. And since he obviously embodies all of the traits of an admirable, valuable, worthy Asgardian, all he needs to do is find the hammer, head back home, and shove it in Dad's face. And in the meantime, he can laugh at all of these silly mortals who think they're worthy to wield the mighty Mjolnir. But then he finds the hammer and he can't lift it. And the fight goes out of him immediately in a way that reveals a major issue for threes. At their core, they are deeply insecure about their own worth.
In order to maintain their external performance, threes must convince themselves that they actually are the idealized image that they project to the world. At the same time, they must also repress their feelings of inadequacy to keep the self-deception going. They fear that if they were to drop their image, other people would see their deficits and reject them, confirming their worthlessness.
And it gets worse. Loki arrives to tell him that his father is dead, with precisely the kind of
"You mustn't blame yourself"
that says, yeah, you definitely should. That his mother absolutely blames him and never wants to see him again, and that the role he has been raised to fill is now Loki's. And just like that, we're looking at a red flag.
A setback that severely damages a three's self-confidence may lead them to the fearful recognition that their life has been built on a weak or even false foundation. They may fear that they are actually failing, or that their successes are meaningless, or that their claims about themselves are fraudulent. Some of those fears may be based on fact.
As long as Mjolnir was stuck in a crater somewhere and lifting it was an abstract concept and the fallout of his invasion of Jotunheim was happening off in the distance where he couldn't see it, Thor was able to convince himself that this was all just a mistake, a misunderstanding, an arbitrary fetch quest, his father being a dick, whatever. But now that he has incontrovertible proof that he really did f*** everything up for everybody, Thor is forced to confront the possibility, the reality, that his father was right to send him away, that his misguided pursuit of success actually has made him unworthy. With his whole sense of self destroyed and no outline for a new set of goals to take its place, Thor is completely lost.
For the first time in my life, I have no idea what I'm supposed to do.
But luckily, he isn't alone in this moment. When Selvig rescues him, and specifically when he pretends that Thor is a researcher on his team, he is unwittingly inviting him into one of Type 3's most important practices of growth.
Find areas in your life where you can be of service as part of a team, but not as the head of the team. Learning to cooperate and work with others without needing to be the center of attention is not easy for threes, but it brings enormous and unexpected satisfaction.
Finally convinced of his exile from Asgard, Thor says yes to this opportunity to bloom where he's been repotted and support the people in front of him. He turns his focus from reclaiming his own accolades to supporting Jane's work, even getting a little domestic. Even when his friends arrive and want to take him back, even when a uniquely otherworldly threat lands on this mortal planet, he focuses on the tasks he can complete in support of others.
I'm just a man. I'll only be in the way, or worse, get one of you killed. But I can help get these people to safety.
There's a quick moment he has with Sif, one that's easy to toss on the pile of shrinkingly noble moments if you're not looking for it.
I will die a warrior's death. Stories will be told of this day.
Live and tell those stories yourself.
This isn't just a moment of care for his friend's life, it represents a fundamental shift in his worldview. Where in his first battle with the Frost Giants, he saw death as nothing to be bothered about,
I have no plans to die today.
and retreat as proof of cowardice,
We must go! Then go!
now he sees failure as a natural potentiality, and his friend's survival as something worth protecting. And his own eventual moment of self-sacrifice comes not out of seeking glory on the field of battle, but accepting responsibility for putting his friends in danger in the first place.
Brother, whatever I have done to wrong you, whatever I have done to lead you to do this, I am truly sorry. But these people are innocent. Taking their lives will gain you nothing. So take mine and end this.
In short, he's actually fighting on a team.
To their surprise, threes find deep satisfaction and feelings of worth in the selfless acts and shared responsibilities that arise through honoring their heartfelt commitments. They find themselves deeply touched by what they create with others, seeing the beauty and goodness of what they have done regardless of the acclaim they may or may not have received for their actions.
Of course, in this case, acclaim does follow. Mjolnir returns to him, and he emerges as the big damn hero of this particular battle. But the work Thor has done doesn't go by the wayside just because he got what he thought he wanted. By the time he returns to Asgard, the crucial difference between him and Loki is not one of legitimacy, but of compassion. While Loki is still chasing the approval of Odin and of Asgard no matter who he has to hurt to get it, Thor understands that they are talking about lives, and lives are worth saving, no matter what the political cost. And so, paradoxically, it's only by abandoning his quest to directly win his father's approval that Thor finally earns the message he's been desperately seeking his whole life.
You've already made me proud.
So, our boy has achieved success by the standards as defined. Now the question becomes, are those standards worth upholding? This is Thor's dilemma in The Avengers, where he is no longer simply representing himself to Asgard, but Asgard to the world. It's notable that he's now pretty much able to take threats to his own ego in stride.
Shakespeare in the Park?
Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?
No hard feelings, Point Break. You got a mean swing.
But is much touchier in moments where the reputation of his home world specifically is at stake.
Have care how you speak. Loki is beyond reason, but he is of Asgard. And he is my brother.
He killed 80 people in 2 days.
He's adopted.
And this increased focus on his place in something larger than himself is a sign that our boy is integrating.
Threes, like healthy sixes, become actualized and remain healthy by learning to commit to others and to goals that transcend their personal interest. This shifts their focus from the need to sustain a self-image to the real desire to support the development of something larger than themselves.
And this is the point in the series where we can start having a little fun with scope. Because when you hold Okoye up next to Thor in this movie, you can start to see the difference between an average to healthy 6 and a 3 who's integrating in that direction. In quiet, private-ish moments, Thor's healthy faith in his own worth and judgment leads him to be able to question Asgard as an institution and a set of values without threatening his sense of identity.
We pretend on Asgard that we're more advanced, but we come here battling like Bildschneid.
Even as he toes the line hard when it's a matter of optics.
My people want nothing but peace with your planet.
This focus on Asgard doesn't stand in for a lack of faith in his own judgments, the way Okoye's faith in Wakanda does, but rather represents an extension of his own inherent sense of value to the people who matter to him, a welcoming of their support and an eagerness to use what is good about himself to serve something bigger. And if that means perhaps too generous an opinion of Loki's potential,
It's too late to stop it. No, we can, together.
well, he can walk it off. This is tested even further in Thor: The Dark World, where when Asgard faces a major existential threat, Thor has to question the values of this institution where he's begun to find meaning outside of himself, and where he's always looked for the standards that would define his own worthiness. And, well, it doesn't look all that great.
We will fight the last Asgardian breath. Last drop of Asgardian blood.
And how are you different from Malekith?
The difference, my son, is that I will win.
Once again, we find Thor facing a major question of identity. Does he serve his father and Asgard in pursuit of success and worthiness as it's always been defined for him? Or does he fight to preserve innocent life at all costs as he's learned from his own journey? The answer leads to a major step of growth.
To liberate themselves, threes must let go of their belief that their value is dependent on the positive regard of others. Only then can they begin to become inner-directed and authentic. Free from the burden of dancing to the expectations of others, threes find the tremendous freedom and lightness of pursuing their own heart's desire.
Okay, put a pin in Heart's desire. But here, Thor chooses to pursue action that reflects his values, even in direct contradiction of his father's, which are, at this point, essentially Asgard's, and therefore the ones that represent success and worthiness as they have existed for his whole life. He rejects his value to his society, choosing instead what will make him feel valued in and of himself. And once again, this rejection of the pursuit of success leads him to success.
You once said there would never be a wiser king than me. You were wrong. What can Asgard offer its new king in return?
But this time, he makes a different choice.
I will protect Asgard and all the realms with my last and every breath, but I cannot do so from that chair. I'd rather be a good man than a great king.
And so we find Thor in Age of Ultron, where we can learn an important lesson about the Enneagram, which is that integration does not necessarily mean leaving every average-level trait behind.
Average 3s may start getting into subtle competitions of all kinds. The principal way that their self-esteem can be bolstered is by winning the comparison, and the overt competition, if there is one.
Thor is generally willing to let his friends take a shot at lifting Mjolnir, but it matters to him that no one else is able to succeed.
You're all not worthy.
But even as Thor is still living out some of his less healthy habits,
Jane's better.
the proof of the pudding comes when, again, Scarlet Witch gives everyone's nightmares legs. I want to take a second to note Thor's deepest fear specifically.
We're all dead. You're a destroyer, Odinson. See where your power leads.
This mirrors the format of a red flag almost perfectly. Thor's deepest fear is not just Asgard's destruction, but the realization that his relentless pursuit of success has caused it. But unlike we saw with Banner, integrated Thor isn't distracted by seeing his deepest fear brought to life. He's able to keep his head on his shoulders, notice what's in the periphery, and stay focused on what matters. That's not to say he's unaffected by Wanda's fuckings around in his head, only to point out that he's built a solid enough foundation that it doesn't derail his development. No matter how worried Thor seemed at the idea of anyone else being worthy to wield Mjolnir earlier, when Vision is able to pick it up and hand it off like any other silly little hammer, Thor is utterly unaffected, throwing his considerable clout behind the one guy who apparently can literally steal his thunder to make sure the rest of the team accepts and trusts him.
Besides investing in their own talents, healthy 3s help others to be their best. They use their ability to excite and motivate people to achieve more than they thought they could.
Thor even welcomes the confusion instigated when more than one worthy soul is running around, embracing that his strength is his ability to hog the spotlight and steal focus.
I am Thor, son of Odin, and as long as there is life in my breast, I am running out of things to say. Are you ready?
Even when it means Vision does the actual doing of the deed that only he is supposed to be able to do. Simply put, Thor is in a good-ass place at this point, but progress isn't permanence. While Thor was able to take his seemingly foundless vision of the destruction of Asgard in stride during Age of Ultron, by the time we catch up with him in Ragnarok 2 years later, the visions have persisted. To make matters worse, he finds out that Loki is still alive, great, but has been taking full advantage of Thor's absence to take the throne and shirk all its responsibilities, undoing the work Thor had done and leading the 9 realms into chaos. So stuff's already not great. And then Odin dies, for real this time. And to make matters worse, he leaves his sons with a last fucking second warning that, oh, by the way, they've got a sister with a legitimate claim to the throne who will 100% destroy Asgard if she gets the chance, which she probably will in like 30 seconds, and then she does, breaks Mjolnir, heads for Asgard, and throws our boy out alone into the abyss. Hey, that's a lot. And unfortunately, it's the kind of setback that can remind us just how fragile the good habits of personal development can be. So even as Thor remains consciously focused on helping the people of Asgard, his concern with the specifics of his own reputation comes back in hard.
When 3s feel insecure, they begin to feel that how they're perceived is everything. Rather than devote their energies to the development of their genuine talents, they allocate their resources to managing others' impressions of them.
Having lost just about everything, Thor obsesses about the specifics of how he appears to others in a way that runs much deeper than good-natured competition.
By Odin's beard, you shall not cut my hair, lest you feel the wrath of the mighty Thor.
You're embarrassing me. I told them we were friends.
Hulk like fire, Thor like water.
Kind of both like fire.
Voice activation required.
Strongest Avenger.
Access denied.
Strongest Avenger.
It seems that criminally seductive Lord of Thunder,
Seductive God of Thunder.
And within this, you can see Type 3's cardinal passion for deceit. Average 3s have a tendency to lie to get what they need. This can involve pointedly telling people what they want to hear in order to get what they need.
I'm not Banner's friend, I prefer you. I don't even like Banner. I'm into numbers and science and stuff. No, I don't even like the Hulk. He's all like, smash. I prefer you.
But more crucially, it's about lying to themselves to reassure themselves of their own value.
Just didn't smash anything. I won that fight. You and I had a fight recently. Did I win? No, I won, easily.
At the heart of it, this represents a fundamental regression on Thor's part. He has lost touch with that intrinsic, unthreatenable sense of his own worth and is back to relying on external symbols of status.
I choose to run toward my problems and not away from them, because that's what heroes do.
Not the right thing to do, not the thing that will do the most good in the world, the thing that heroes do. And while Ghost Dad calls him on this over-reliance on the symbolic,
Are you Thor, the god of hammers?
Our boy is too far gone for it to really sink in. And things can get worse. Thor loses his brother, who looked like he was finally gonna shape up and be a decent deity, his best friend, who sacrificed his life to this mission no one involved could fully understand the scope of just yet, and everyone. This is a crushing blow for obvious reasons. Thor, having lost so much so recently, loses essentially everyone and everything he had left in one fell swoop. But this isn't just a loss, it's a failure. The last message he got from his father,
Asgard is not a place. Never was. Asgard is where our people stand. Right now, those people need your help.
Isn't just a message about prioritizing lives over buildings. It's a new metric for success, a definition of how to be a good king, and it's a definition by which he is now the ultimate failure. So Thor revisits his father's last question to him.
Are you Thor, the god of hammers?
And basically says, yes, I am.
I need a hammer, not a spear.
He spends a whole movie chasing one goal, get a new weapon.
The Thanos killing kind.
It becomes desperately important to Thor not just to stop Thanos, but to personally kill him, because that's what heroes do, and being a hero is literally all that he has left. And for a second, it looks like it's gonna work. But it doesn't. He makes one crucial mistake.
You should have gone for the head.
And when he gets the chance, he corrects it.
What did you do? I went for the head.
But in letter, not in spirit. And it rings deeply, deeply hollow.
3s want success because they're afraid of disappearing into a chasm of emptiness and worthlessness. Without the increased attention and feeling of accomplishment that success usually brings, 3s fear that they are nobody and of no value.
Killing Thanos doesn't unkill anyone else. And it doesn't make Thor feel any less like a failure. And now he truly has nothing left. No family, no kingdom, no aspirations, no hope.
Under increased stress, the coping mechanisms of average 3s may break down, leading them to act out some of the qualities of average to unhealthy 9s. Their underlying emptiness breaks through, and they appear apathetic and burned out. Rather than using their industriousness to improve their situation, they tend to avoid the realities of their problems and waste their time indulging in wishful thinking and fantasies of their next big success.
Hey, just gotta cut in real quick before I show any more footage of Chris Hemsworth in a fat suit to say that weight gain is not inherently funny, and it's not a sign of personal failure, and it's a real bummer that this movie keeps treating it as both of those things. Okay, bye.
Okay, disintegration to 9. Here again, you can see the difference between Bruce Banner as a 9 and Thor as a 3 at 9. Where Banner hides from the world around him because he's uncomfortable being too affected by default, Thor does it to better preserve his self-image as an untouchably worthy hero. As long as he stays in his cottage, drunk out of his mind with friends who won't challenge him and even give him the opportunity to keep being a little bit of a drunk, reclusive hero.
Noob Master, hey, it's Thor again. You know, the god of thunder?
Thor can cling to the truth that he killed Thanos without having to face the lie that it mattered.
Why would I be scared of that guy? I'm the one who killed that guy, remember?
I also just love looking at this scene with the Enneagram as a lens because it lends so much to the fact that it's Banner on this mission.
I get it. You're in a rough spot. Okay, I've been there myself.
He literally has been in this spot before. He recognizes these coping mechanisms because they're his, too. But he also recognizes the difference in the motivation behind these coping mechanisms, and he absolutely nails what Thor needs to hear to get him off his ass.
You want to know who helped me out of it?
Natasha.
It was you.
Deep down, threes want to be valued for themselves, not just for their accomplishments. So the fact that Banner calls not on something that Thor did in an acclaim-worthy way, but on who he is as a person, a friend, is crucial. And at first, it looks like it might not work. But when Banner set him up, Rocket knocks him down.
There's beer on the ship.
And sure, that's a laugh line, but it's also concealing a truly kind sentiment from someone who has actually come to care for this guy. We want you, in whatever shape you're in. You can be as drunk and sad and nominally useless as you please, as long as you show up. We need you. So, Thor comes along for the ride, acts all good to go, loses his shit entirely, and finds himself talking to his mother. And the walls come a-tumbling down.
I'm totally from the future.
Yes, you are.
I really need to talk to you.
This is one of the hardest things for threes to do, but one of the most crucial.
Threes must understand very clearly that the mask must come off, and the feelings of emptiness inside must be acknowledged if healing is to take place.
While friendship is not, in and of itself, something that is difficult for most threes, their relationships often involve a ton of image management. They are afraid of being truly vulnerable with others because they fear that if they acknowledge the things that make them feel small, then others will see them as small. You can see Rocket trying to chip away at this in Infinity War.
You sure you're up to this particular motor mission?
And how Thor shuts it down.
Anger, loss, regret, they're all tremendous motivators. They really clear the mind, so I'm good to go.
But with his mother alive again, it comes out. And with her help, he makes a crucial revelation.
Everyone fails at who they're supposed to be, Thor. The measure of a person, of a hero, is how well they succeed at being who they are.
And hello, he's worthy. But okay, here's the thing. Being worthy of Mjolnir is not the end of Thor's story here. It's not like it's unimportant, of course. That the hammer comes when he calls is a much more meaningful message to his shattered ego than his own empty refrains about having killed Thanos. But if you dig into this moment in context, this is an absolute refutation of the conversation he just had. Frigga tells Thor to stop putting so much weight on who he's supposed to be and focus instead on who he can be. And Thor turns around and immediately goes back to his old friend, the material symbol that he is who he is supposed to be. Now, in a different video, we could talk about the dissonance of this framing, with so much pathos imbued in this moment that it overshadows what seems like a much more important message. But in this video, we can talk instead about how personal growth and change doesn't just happen like that. And Thor, like a person, needs some time for this to sink in. So the fact that he goes right from his mother to his hammer shows us that he's not there yet. He's got the hammer, he goes back to the present, and immediately drops back into blatantly lying about what he's capable of in order to do something that will prove he is the most worthy.
I'm the strongest Avenger, okay? So this responsibility falls upon me. It's
Norman,
my
you're right.
duty.
Buddy.
Stop it! Just let me do something good, something right.
But he's on the right track, because even at his healthiest up to this point, Thor would never have been happy to see Cap wield Mjolnir.
I knew it.
But even that, I don't think, is the most important hammer moment in this movie. No, I think the one that tells us the most about Thor, what he's learning and where he's headed, is this one.
No, give me that. You have the little one.
Like, think about these weapons for a moment. The wonderful Scott over at NerdSync, whose voice I have co-opted for this video for precisely this reason, thanks Scott, made the excellent observation that Mjolnir is a weapon and a tool of endless possibility, while Stormbreaker has one purpose: kill Thanos. But that's not all. Mjolnir is a symbol of Thor's former glory, of his father's approval and his ascendance to the throne and his value to Asgard. Stormbreaker is a symbol of his failure, a trauma trigger that spent 5 years as no more than a bottle opener. But Thor's not actually here to correct the failure that Stormbreaker represents. He doesn't seem at all bothered by the question of who's going to go for the head this time. He relishes the fight itself, standing proudly as one member of a team who are in this together, as the man he is today. And the man he is today carries a big old all-caps failure of an axe. In other words, Mjolnir is the weapon the person he is supposed to be wields. Stormbreaker is the weapon the person he is wields. But when the fight is over, life goes on, and our boy still has no family, no kingdom, no metric for success to give his life direction. Or not quite. There's New Asgard, a people asking him to crawl out from under his pile of beer bottles and be their king. But now, having come out the other side of this darkest timeline where this pursuit of external seals of approval can lead him, Thor reaches an important revelation.
In the headlong rush to achieve whatever they believe will make them more valuable, threes can become so alienated from themselves that they no longer know what they truly want or what their real feelings or interests are. From their earliest years, as threes learn to pursue the values that others reward, they gradually lose touch with themselves. Step by step, their own inner core, their heart's desire, is left behind until they no longer recognize it.
Even at his healthiest up to this point, Thor was still courting success in the eyes of somebody, rejecting the throne specifically, maybe, but seeking honor, moral good, worthiness. He's never really considered what he might like, enjoy, want if the approval of others were taken out of the equation. So he takes it off the table, leaving only his elusive heart's desire to finally be discovered.
Everybody knows who's in charge. Me. Right? Yes, you. Of course. Of course. Of course.
Hopefully.
Thank you so much to all of my patrons, with an extra special thank you to Andreas Evans, Kaya, Lizzie Gray, LL Milktray, Michelle, and Nikki Miskell. Thanks also to Scott Nicewander from NerdSync for lending his voice to this video. He has also made an excellent video on Thor's journey in the MCU, which you should definitely watch if you have not. If you want to help me make more and better videos, you can support me over at patreon.com/Laura Crone or throw me a one-time tip on PayPal.